moving on. Hi everybody, and welcome back to Plastic Models by a Regular Dude, and part number 4 of the Dragon 1/35 scale Panzer Kampfwagen 1 Ausf A. Alright, real quick recap. In part 2, I got step 1 completed, and step 2, if I'm not mistaken. Then in part 3, I did the tracks, fenders, all of the back parts there. In part 3 and 4. So, in this episode, we move on to step 5. Before we start the actual assembly, here's what it looks like so far with all of that work done. Small parts assembled, fenders, tracks, running gear, all of that. So we're ready to move on with step 5. So I'm going to start with these sub-assemblies here, which are some, let's see, we got the jack, some tools, fire extinguisher, looks like the horn, siren, whatever you want to call it, and the exhaust slash mufflers. So let's start cutting some parts off. Now, like usual, the first bit of the video here, I will demonstrate on the first few parts in case you missed some of my earlier segments. I'll show how I cut the parts off and clean them up. It's not that difficult, it's not that exciting, so I'm only going to just demonstrate it on the first few parts, and then I'll do the rest of that off camera. So let's see, let's get, I don't know which one of these I'm supposed to use, B18 or B26. So I guess I can just choose. I think I'm gonna use B18. That's a different looking one than what I've normally used, or what I'm used to. So just using my God hand cutter here. On this one, I'm gonna cut it as close to the part as possible. And this is where these kind of cutters really shine, because it cuts through the plastic instead of smashing or twisting the plastic, which is really helpful on delicate parts. You don't have to worry about breaking them. All right, so we got that, and then I'm gonna cut off the jack parts, which are B35, B37, B32, B30, blah, blah, blah. So we got B35 right here. I'm gonna cut this one back a little bit. We got B37 here, cut that back a little bit. Another thing that's nice to see, when you cut this stuff, it doesn't launch them across your desk from it snapping it off as opposed to cutting it off. Let's see, B30. Let's see, B32. B34 and B40. Here and here. And that looks like all of it. I also need B33, which is for the wire cutter. All right, so that's all the parts I need to cut off. Now I gotta just clean them up. But first, this seems really prevalent on Dragon kits, maybe on others too, but in my experience, most of it's on Dragon kits. They have these bits here, which is part of the injection molding process, so you gotta cut those off. So I'm gonna cut as close as possible without damaging any detail. Like that. And then, whoops, cut this part off here. Like that. Now, there's a mold seam line on here. So, using my newish X-Acto blade, or whatever hobby knife you prefer, or scalpel, whatever, just scrape it down like that till the seam line is gone. And then I need to do the same thing here, and you got to be really careful. You got to find a way to hold these that it's not gonna break it, because these are pretty delicate little parts. Just scrape it like that. And that. All right. So there's the handle for the jack. Now let's do a little bit bigger part here. Same thing. I'm going to cut this as close as I can. Like that. And then cut this here. Like that. Cut that there. Get all the sprue gates off. Now, this here, I'm going to trim it back a little bit more with my knife. Like that. Then I'm going to take this here sander. Sand off that mold seam line there. Now see, I don't know if you can see it, but it's a little bit shiny right there. That means I haven't got all the way down flush to the surface of the plastic, all the way across where that seam line is. Now for some of you that have watched my other videos, this is repetitive, but I'm doing this just in case people are coming in late. And then this one I'm going to sand because, or scrape, because there's no sprue gate there, and it's narrower than my sanding stick that I'm using right now. I've got narrower sanding sticks, but I'd rather do it like this just to demonstrate. So there's that. And that's what I will do with the rest of these parts. So I'm going to go ahead and get the rest of these cleaned up, since you've already seen how I do it, and then we'll come back and start assembling all these little bits. Alright, I'm ready to start gluing this stuff together. So I'm going to start with this part here. The largest part of the jack. And then let's get this part here. And it goes here. There's a pin and a hole, corresponding hole. Goes like that. Use my Tamiya extra thin. And I'm going to use my tweezers on this end here to make sure it's lined up like that. There we go. Okay, then B37, this little teeny tiny thing here, goes in there. So got that there. So now I'm gonna make sure that it's level and lined up properly, like that. Then the bolt cutter actually goes on top of this jack. But I need to put the clamp on first. So B32, this one here. And that goes, wow. this way. Whoop. This way. It's not very clear where exactly that's supposed to go. I think it's supposed to line up, possibly. Oh, you know what? That's where it goes. There's two little fine lines there that goes in between them. Like that. Kaboomity. Okay, so it goes like that. So I need to make sure that's lined up properly. Whoops. Okay, and then put some cement on that. Like that. Then this goes on top of here, but I'm not. Looks like there's a pin right there. Let's see how it looks. Not digging that. I think it goes like that. So this piece here, see, some of these parts are just like, they're not real positive in their location. So like this one right here, looks like it goes on the end of this. So let me see if I can get this lined up. There we go. Like that. Oh man, shoot. Let's try it again. Sorry this is taking so long, folks. This is just showing you how tiny these parts are. Okay, I'm gonna let that dry for a second. Okay, so now there's that little pin there which goes here, and then one of the ends of the handle goes in this little spot there. So let's see if that lined up right. It's hard to work with this little stuff at awkward angles. Holy Toledo. Shoot. Okay, so that's there. Get some glue on it before I drop it again. Alright, so I got that glued. Hopefully it'll stay. And then this little tiny bracket part goes here. Let's try it with tweezers. This has got to be painful for all you poor folks watching out there in YouTube land, but you know, that's the way it goes. This is really, really difficult. All right, this is going to be fest. So I'm going to do this off camera and I'll just come back and show you the finished product. Okay, I got that whole sub-assembly done, so now I need to glue it to the base. And hopefully I can do this without too much trouble, because this is really fine stuff going on here. Alright, so I got it on there, so now I'm going to use my tweezers and hopefully smash it down really good. Oh man. Get it. There we go. Nice and flush. Good deal. That'll work. Now I'll glue this middle support here. I'm going to let that dry good before I try and attach the actual crank handle to the jack. Alright, so now that that is dried hopefully enough, I can glue this in place, and it goes with the handle facing underneath, like, oh, it's gonna give me problems. Goes like it goes like that. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is put a little bit of cement here so it'll stick, hopefully. Then I'm going to carefully lift this. Wow, this jack has been just horrendous. Okay, now I got it in place. Then I'm going to put a little bit of glue right here to make sure it sticks, because that is not very much of a contact point right there. So, man, that jack just was, that was a chore, folks. Oh, no. Okay, now it's got to dry. Alright, so now I've got the fire extinguisher and mount. Those are done. So the mount goes here. Like that. Put a little cement on that. And then the fire extinguisher goes here. See a couple of wrong way. It goes this way. Like that. Okay, next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to install C1, which is this front plate here. And what I'm going to do is, just to make sure it sits really flat and flush, I'm going to do this side first. And then the other side. So I want to make sure it's lined up really well. So I'll let that Then we'll do this side here. Like that. All right, I've been cutting parts and such like that. Now I glued these exhausts together. Whoops, forgot to zoom in. So those will have to be sanded down once they're dried. So one thing I did notice is I got the fenders cut off, parts number, let's see, what part numbers are those? B8 and B7. But I noticed that I had forgotten to glue these parts here. They go right here. So I cut them off, and they're easily installed. Now this one's going to give me fits because I'm on video right now, but the other one went in with no trouble at all. They just slide right into place, so that is kind of groovy. So I'm going to go ahead and glue that one in, and then come back and glue some more of these other parts on. So you can see I've got this fender on here, so the other one hopefully will go in place like it should, and it does. So just as a comment, this stuff fits together really well. It truly does. So let's see if I can figure out a way to hold this in place while I glue it. Hold it there for a second. And then a little glue on this side, like that. And there we go. That looks pretty dandy. All right, so we got the fenders done. So now I can start gluing these other small parts on. We've got this here dirt scooping device, aka shovel. And that goes there. So I guess I better probably do the hacks first. That goes there. So glue that like that. Then we'll get the old shovel right there. a little bit glue there. And then on the other side, that goes there. Glue there, and a little glue there. Make sure those are pressed firmly in place, and voila. Then we have these hooks here. There's little indents there that they fit in like that. Make sure it's properly aligned. And the other one. There, maybe. There we go. Like that. Beautiful. Then put this little headlight. This is a headlight, not a Horner siren. I was wrongish there. Not the first time. Now I haven't put the clear part on because that will be one of the very last things I do on this whole project. Because I don't want to have to mask it off or anything. And there we go. All right, so that takes care of all of those. Now I need two numbers B29, which look like smaller lights. Here and here. So I need to cut those off. Okay, I got these two little small lights, B29, in place. Those were real small, so I had to do them off camera. So the next thing I need to work on is the exhaust. So I've already glued them together. So now I need to sand down the seams a bit so I can move on to the photo etch part of it. All right, for the photo etch parts, I need to cut out these straps, MA3, and these heat shields, MA1. So the there's the photo etch. So I'll demonstrate with one piece how I do this, and I'll do the rest off camera just like everything else. So using a X-Acto knife, people use a lot of different things, and you know, there's specialty tools and all that kind of stuff, but I found that this works just fine. So I'm going to cut, that part out, and that part out. And what I do is I just get as close to the part as possible so I can leave less to have to clean up. Then, using my handy Tamiya photo etch bending tool, I'm going to hold it like this, and I'm going to sand the edge. Make sure none of that little bit of brass is left on there. Doesn't take much, and if you cut it really close, it makes it real easy. So there is that. All right, next up, as you can see, I've got this. I've got the exhaust mufflers installed, and now I need to work on the heat shield. So here's what I'm doing. I'm using this cool little Bernzomatic torch, and I'm going to anneal these. And if you're not familiar with the practice, which I wasn't until about, oh, I don't know, an hour ago. I mean, I've heard about it and all this, but I've never actually done it. But basically what you want to do is, like right now, the, I can zoom out for this. The brass is real springy. So in order to be able to bend it and have it hold its shape without, you know, it doing weird things, it needs to be heated and then cooled. So this is the way I was taught. So if there's another way and I'm doing it wrong, well, I'll be more than happy to hear it, but it works so far. So I got my torch, light it, and then I just heat this till it kind of changes color. See how it's changed color there? And if you do it too much, you'll get it too hot, and then dip it in some water. I have a bowl of water right here. See? Dip it in water. And then just let it dry, and you'll end up with a nice malleable bit of photo etch. And I'll show you how well it bends in a minute. I guess I could have shown you what I was talking about, so let's do a little quick experiment, shall we? Okay, here we have two pieces of photo etch from that fret that are virtually the same size and shape. So say you wanted to bend it in this curve right here. Okay, you bend it around like this, and boom, see, you get this. So you have to bend it beyond, and if there's any other details, you could mess those up. You could end up with kinks, which you may not be able to see it, but I have just a little ever so tiny bit of a kink right there. So there you go. Now, what some people do is they will stick it on the part, glue it down, hold it, and it's like, all right, cool, it's stuck. But if it's supposed to be like this, it's still under tension, and you risk one side popping off, okay? So if we anneal it, however, I'm using these self-closing tweezers here, and these are smooth. That's why I'm using them, so it doesn't mar the finish. Light it up. Heat it like that. Cool it. We'll set it right there and dry it off. And when we take the annealed one piece and you bend it around like this, voila. See, it holds its shape much better. Okay, so there's that. So anyway, it's really my first time ever. No, it's not really my first time. It is my first time ever annealing photo etch. Heard about it, but never done it. And I'm glad I've messed with it because it works. So anyway, let me get these parts prepped, and then we'll come back and start putting them in place. All right, so I've got this part curved the way I want. I've bent in the tabs. Sorry, zoom in. Bent in the tabs that sit on the surface. I want to make sure those are at a 90-degree angle. And the way I bent those after I made my curve is I used this photo etch bending tool, and I just basically held both those little tabs, both those little ears there, lined it up with the straight edge here, and then just bent it. I'll demonstrate it in a minute. But what I want to accomplish here is I want those little mounting tabs to fit on the inside of this bolt strap detail here, whatever this is. It's a flat spot that's not textured like the rest of the fender with bolts. So I want it to fit in between here and the edge of the fender. So I've accomplished that, and whenever I bent the whenever I made the curve, still a little bit too much, so I just kept bending it slightly with my fingers very carefully so as not to make a kink in it. And that's another reason this annealing works good, prevents you from kinking stuff. And now it's the right width, so all I have to do is glue that on with some super glue. So in order to get that curve, I used this hobby knife handle. And what I did, now there is detail on here, so you want to make sure that you have the right side up. So these little tabs, there's like a bolt head detail. I'm not that a person would ever see it, but just in case. So I just take it, make sure it's lined up, and then just bend it around thusly. Now if you bend it crooked, all you got to do is twist it a little bit and recurve it. Okay, so there we go. That's the starting point right there. Then just kind of eyeball it from the side, make sure that both of these surfaces here are parallel to each other. If you have to, you can twist it a little bit. Again, annealing allows that to happen without a bunch of springiness. Then all I have to do is just line it up like this, and bend it, and you get your nice little bends there. And you can bend them more if you have to, but this gets it started. What I'm doing is I'm looking at off camera here, is I'm using white paper to make sure I don't see daylight along that edge, and bend it like that. All right, so we're good to go. So now all I have to do is just squeeze it a little bit, squeeze it a little bit, squeeze it a little bit, back and forth very carefully until I get it to the width I want right here, which I'm almost there. So let's just go ahead and continue on. See, it's maintaining a nice even curve there. And if you get something like that, just kind of squeeze it from one side and boom, it'll push it right out. So it's really and bump my head on the thing, and I have to look off camera here. Needs a little bit more in the back. And let's see. There we go. That's ready to glue on. And since I did that off camera to make it easier, so my noggin didn't get in the way, there it is. So that finishes step 5. And with the completion of step 5, I think I will end this video here. So that's the end of part number 4, which was step 5 of the Dragon 1/35 scale Panzer I Ausf A. If you enjoyed this and you want to see more of this build, I'll have a link at the end screen, and you can check out more of this build. Or if you want to just stay up to date on it all the time, hit subscribe and notify, and that way you'll know when a new episode is released. So, as always, thanks for watching Plastic Models by Regular Dude, and I will see you all later.